We are live. What is up, everybody? Aaron the Dog back with breakdown number 3 of the week, the last breakdown of the week, the PFL Challenger Series. It's our second to last PFL Challenger Series, the last one with one division. It is the heavyweight division. You should probably know what you're in for if you're tuning into this video. We got some fights. We got, I think, one or two prospects, and then 6 other guys who are filling out the card, to be honest with you. But I think that it's going to be one of 2 people that gets a contract probably. But we've got a few 1-0 fights. We've got a late notice replacement with big sexy Billy Swanson stepping in for Brett Martin, the Michigan heavyweight prospect that I'm from Michigan, full disclosure, originally. And so I've been hearing about Brett Martin for years and years and years now, and it's all about like wait till he just gets everything kind of in line and gets a camp and his nutrition at one point, and then he had the fight with Ferreira that he got hit in the back of the head and got the win for. Long story short, he's pulled out of another fight. Don't know what happened, but it was a very late pullout, which is never good for anything. I realize how that sounded. Take it how you want, but you never want to be late with your pullouts, including medically. So, yeah, he's out and don't know what's going on, but Big Sexy's in for that fight with Giacomo, but we'll get to that in a moment. Lucky Locks, how are you doing for our final pure Challenger Series, and what are your thoughts overall on the Challenger Series so far?
I'm doing well today. First of all, I'm excited to talk about some fights here. This should be it'll be a show on Friday night, fellas. I'll tell you that much. But yeah, man, Challenger Series. I mean, it's been good for sure. There's been some good fights on here. There's been some cards that are definitely, a little stronger than others. I'll say that. I was kind of surprised that they're only taking one fighter per, and it's kind of, I don't know. I feel like they're not always even taking the best prospect off of the cards.
Or the most impressive win. It's a really weird. Yeah, it's a weird. I'm not sure what they're.
But I mean, I guess respect for them to actually just take stick to their word and say whoever wins impressively, like we'll take you.
Yeah, and they've got a whole bunch of FUBU or Fubo free trials used. Yeah. Maybe a couple of people that use the $5 for a month once you say no to the $60. So. Maybe they got some business. Who knows? But yeah, it's we obviously don't have odds on the Swanson fight, but we can make a very easy determination there.
Yeah, they're going to be tilted.
Yeah, and just in general, Visceral asking, is this the clearest 4-fighter parlay we've seen? I would say no, because we really don't know what we're getting from that main event at all, the featured fight at all. And then, I mean, the first fight of the night, like, let's actually go into it here as the construction decides to start right when we're getting into the breakdown here. But we're going to go into the first fight. All of them are at heavyweight. But no, I would not say this is a clear-cut type of card necessarily. But, we'll do our best here. We're starting out at 1-0 versus 1-0 here. We got Dequan Buckley. Dequan Buckley, known as the guy who they'll say he's a former football player, as is John Cunningham. John Cunningham playing the pros. Dequan Buckley fought Royce White, former basketball first-round pick out of Iowa State, known for his anxiety kind of keeping him from playing in the pros, taking on John Cunningham. And we'll get to Adam Koresh in a second, CCTV, but Adam Koresh, definitely a very legitimate prospect by far. I think one of the most impressive guy on this card. So I would say he's pretty safe, but we'll get to him in a minute here. Dequan Buckley and John Cunningham. Battle of the heavyweight former football players. John Cunningham, I was talking to Lucky before the fight, but doing tape on John Cunningham, you can see his one fight with Fury. It was on the prelims. However, on the broadcast, they listed him at 43 years old. So throughout the entire fight, you can hear the commentary talking about how amazing the athleticism was of the 40-year-old John Cunningham. He's 26, former Atlanta Falcon, and I thought that was weird. But, overall, he's a young guy, very young, 1-0, young in his career. Has a KO as an amateur, KO as a pro. He's over at Jackson Winklejohn, so definitely some, very good overall bones to this guy. He's not a huge heavyweight, but that's kind of a theme for a lot of heavyweights tonight. He beat an 0-0 guy in Jacob Bradley Williams. Didn't look too impressive himself, but Jacob Williams did take him down, and we were able to see John Cunningham get right back up, which was kind of good to see. He didn't just fall onto his back, and he got a takedown of his own, not the most technical takedown, but he did kind of get it back, and then ground and pounded him away, looked to have good power. He's going to go against Dequan Buckley. Dequan Buckley literally did one thing in his debut. He wrestled and laid on top of Royce White, which is kind of what he had to do. I mean, he was much shorter than his opponent, had to deal with some kicks, but Royce White looked like he didn't belong in there. I bet on Buckley that night, and thought it was a beautiful performance from a betting perspective, but not exactly from an overall MMA perspective. He looks like he's kind of continuing to use MMA in a way to get into shape. He looks like he's, still getting down to his optimal weight at heavyweight. He came in at 263, 264 for his debut. I anticipate he's going to continue to come slim down to like 260, 255 or something. Look a little better in this fight. I think it's going to be pretty close. I wasn't crazy about seeing Cunningham taken down, honestly, and that kind of does concern me here. I think Dequan's just going to go in there and look to grab him and take him to the ground and lay on him. And I mean, if that doesn't happen, I do see some possibility for Cunningham to get the strikes. I'm going to go with Dequan Buckley here. I think it's going to be a lackluster kind of decision where he just, 5'10" versus 6 foot, not two of the bigger heavyweights for sure. So I think he's going to be able to get into the range, get a hold of him, and get him down. So take Buckley to not get the contract. And it's a slight underdog on mine, according to my card. So I would go with Buckley on this one, though.
Yeah, so we got two former football players here. Obviously, Buckley played in college, and so did Cunningham, but then also played at DT for the Falcons, like you mentioned. So interesting. Yep. Buckley, outside of fighting, is a police officer. I believe Cunningham is a elementary school teacher, works with reading with kids in the second grade. And Buckley had two amateur fights. One is LFA and pro debut against Royce White, like we talked about. And, we talked about that fight. We both picked him. We both bet him, and he did us both proud that night. Wasn't the highest level, most technical fight that I think either of us have ever seen, but it got the job done and put a little money in our pocket, so can't complain there. Both of those guys were pretty green. Buckley did have a little bit more wrestling, and that was kind of the difference maker for him. Striking-wise, doesn't really have too much, but obviously does have that wrestling. Cunningham, on the other hand, training at Jackson Wink, did have a wrestling experience before football and before fighting, so that won't be that new to him. Working with good partners over there, Davion Franklin, Christian Edwards, he's getting work with them. Had that amateur fight on CFFC with the round 1 knockout, and got another one on Fury FC. Neither of the opponents he faced were particularly high level, but I don't really feel like Buckley is at high level either. I like Cunningham to win here. Pro career has only been 2 minutes and 30 seconds. That's all it really took him to secure the first win. So don't really know too much about the striking. Looks like a pretty strong wrestler, looks athletic. I like him to win this fight. He actually opened up as the underdog here. I was able to get him at even money at plus 100. So that's where I'm at for this one.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll probably put a small wager down on Buckley doing the same thing that he did to Royce White, to be honest, where it's just like, but good enough type of thing. But yeah, not one I'm putting a big wager on, and definitely not super confident in that fight. Next fight here is one I'm very confident in. We just talked about him a moment ago. I'm just getting down my time here, but we're talking about Adam Koresh here taking on the MMA staple and just Chad Johnson MMA. That's his name on Instagram. He doesn't like getting confused with Ocho Cinco. Chad Johnson. I know him for a few things. I know him for coming into his heavyweight Contender Series fight at 215 pounds against Josh Parisian, and almost putting Josh Parisian away in that spot before getting mounted and sent to the shadow realm, as Patty calls it. But big rig, 6'3", 35 years old, 6'2", so he's taller than both guys in the first fight, 80.5-inch reach. He's got the same reach as John Jones. That's where the similarities end. Resurgence MMA. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. Got a league. Had another fight with Jordan Heiderman. I know it started quick, but he had a moment in that fight where he kind of hurt Heiderman, but then he decided to soccer kick him in the face. So that kind of erased that. Chad Johnson appears to have a moment every fight where it's like, oh, in his losses before he loses. So he does have that kind of spark type of thing. But they put him up against Adam Koresh here. Adam Koresh has already really good experience with Bellator very early on. Impressive strikes, put away Baby Fedor, which is, I know, getting less and less impressive. But, I mean, Chad Johnson, besides the Kalen Hall fight, which was against a 6-1 opponent at the time, knocked him out. And he's knocked out all of his wins have come by knockout or one retirement. And he's been knocked out in all his wins besides the soccer kick. So I think he's going to come out here. He's going to try to catch the much better skilled. Yes, he has less experience than Adam Koresh, but I think Adam Koresh has more experience at a higher level in Bellator. He's 4-0. He's on a Team Burt fight, which in fighting out Tel Aviv, all finishes by knockout as well. Someone's going down. The last 2 fights have been against impressive opponents and still first-round finishes and really just no issues at all. Hasn't fought since 2019. Obviously, that's a concern. But coming against a very undersized, pretty predictable, fighter in Chad Johnson, he's got to avoid the first minute and a half where there's some danger. And I think he will. And Adam's going to put him away. Someone's going to sleep in this one, and it's probably going to be Chad Johnson. So, and then Ross says, I love this card. Bunch of parlays on Bovada. So, love is a strong word, Ross. But I'm glad there's someone for everybody out there, and this Challenger card is for you, I guess, Ross. I got Adam Koresh here, one of my more confident picks, but I am worried about the time off, and I don't have the exact reason why. So, but yeah, Adam Koresh, I think that minus 210 parlay it everywhere.
Yeah, so we got Koresh coming in 4-0, 3 of his 4 fights on Bellator, and finished all 4 of his fights with knockouts. So, I mean, you talk about experience in your 3rd and 4th fight as a pro. You're fighting Vladimir Fendin and Kirill Sadelnikov. Fendin had 20 pro fights at the time when Koresh fought him. Sadelnikov had 16 pro fights at that time. That's really impressive to me personally. And I mean, Koresh is pretty solid everywhere. Good striker, good power. Had that nice head kick that he landed in one of those fights. I honestly can't remember which one it was. I think it was Sadelnikov.
It was Sadelnikov.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu black belt, very good on the ground. And he was taken down by Sadelnikov in that fight, who had 20-some pounds on him at the weigh-ins. And he was able to get back to his feet pretty quickly, right? Like, he is really good on the ground. Johnson, 7-2 amateur career, got a lot of experience before going pro, 5-0 start to his pro career, but just wasn't fighting anybody that good. And I guess over his next 4, he's kind of gotten a bit of a step up. He's been 1-3 over those 4. Did have a nice win on LFA, fought Josh Parisian on Contender Series and was defeated like we talked about. And then, he had a really good 20 seconds against Jordan Heiderman before that soccer kick.
Yeah, that was great 20 seconds.
We can take that for whatever it's worth. But, both of these guys are kind of on the lighter end of heavyweight. I expect both of these guys to be pretty mobile, move pretty well. Johnson does have those heavy hands, man. You got to give him credit there, but he can be a little bit hittable. We have seen him run into trouble on the ground before, and I just feel like, I feel pretty good that Koresh is going to get the win here. I think he's the better fighter. His level of competition thus far in his career has been fantastic, in my opinion. He's looked very good every time he's been out there. So, I'm pretty confident in Koresh. I do have him parlayed. Yeah,
I'm pretty surprised at those odds, honestly. I was expecting to see 4 to 500.
Yeah.
So, I think it's pretty surprising. I honestly expect a ground and pound TKO finish for Koresh. The ground striking defense of Chad Johnson is to go out. Like, that appears to be what it was against Josh Parisian, at least. But
if Josh Parisian's getting you in mount,
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I'd take Adam Koresh over Josh Parisian. To be honest.
I think I probably would too.
man, Josh Parisian. That was a guy I was really excited for coming in that I was so wrong. And then Ross saying, okay, here, clarifying for Ross here. I love PFL card, I should say, need to be clear. Yeah, you just want to make sure not to say you love this specific Challenger Series card. And then CCTV saying, Wayne, he looked good too. He's in the same shape as, yeah. I mean, sometimes this is why, it pays to kind of not just stick with the UFC. You can have these kind of sneak buys sometimes. And I think Am Koresh at minus 200 should be in most of your parlays for the weekend or a decent amount of them, to be honest. So, and then, yeah, obviously like the stream. Thanks, CCTV. Everybody, like the stream. I hate saying that. So hopefully people just do it because, either way. But on to the next fight. This is I can't remember the last time Lucky and I just had a card that the morning of was the same as when we recorded in the afternoon. And here's the exception this time. We got the Brazilian Giacomo Lamos taking on Billy Swanson, Big Sexy. Here we go. Billy Swanson, luckily a guy I'm familiar with, and I'm not going to be rushing to go back and watch Big Sexy tape every time he fights, to be honest. I just, I watch a lot of fights, and Big Sexy is not one I'm lining up to go back and watch. 4-2 for the 28-year-old. He went to college at King College, which is, he's out of Sodi Daisy, Tennessee is where he fights out of. Wrestling style is what he claims to have. Chattanooga Mixed Martial Arts College is where he fights out of. Last fought in August of last year, taking on Marcelo Golm, the Brazilian, making his return to Bellator. And Golm looked Golm just outclassed Swanson here, whose wins are over a 2-6 guy, 0-1 guy, 2-5 opponent, and 0-0 opponent. He did get stoppages in 3 of the 4, one being by way of submission, the other two being by strikes. He's knocked out in both his losses. He got knocked out in 50 seconds by Harry Hunsucker. Giacomo Lemos, 7-0. He's an interesting looking fella, 32 years old, 6'3" out of Rango Farias team, 7 straight wins in all 7 of his pro wins, or all 7 of his fights coming by whatever. All 7 of his fights wins, 7-0. Coming off of, a decent amount of experience in the last few, although not fighters I am all too familiar with. I watched the Sang Soo Lee fight, put a pretty good beating on him before the doctor stopped it between fights. All his fights coming by way of KO, except for his last fight where he got an arm triangle win. So pretty dangerous on the feet. I like that there's a few second round finishes in there. Seems to keep it going. Swanson's been cracked on the feet plenty of times. Giacomo Lemos all day here.
Yeah, so we got as is tradition, we have one fight that was changed literally right before we came onto the show.
Yep.
But luckily, it's a guy that we're both familiar with. So Giacomo Lamos, man, this guy's big, 7-0, all finishes, 5 knockouts, 2 submissions. Competition, hasn't really been strong. Let's not kid ourselves. 56-63 is the combined opponent record for him. So sub 500, and all of his last 4 opponents have had double-digit losses, and a lot of them were, not just 10, quite a bit over that. He was the open weight champ in AFC in South Korea, and on the feed, he has lots of power in his hands, obviously. Has some leg kicks that he'll use. He works the jab, some push kicks at distance, has some looping hooks that he throws, and he's strong. He's a pretty decent grappler as well. Coming in here against Big Sexy Billy Swanson, who has never beaten anybody with a winning record before. Anytime he spots someone with a winning record, which is 2 times as pro, he's lost those fights. One of them was Harry Hunsucker. So, it's
our boy
coming in on such short notice, man. I assume is this like what, 2 days, one or 2 days notice?
Yeah, 2 days tops. It depends on if they just didn't report it.
I know, that's what I'm wondering too.
But still, it can't be more than a week, and it's Billy Swanson.
Yeah, and
I don't think he's exactly working the gym.
Taking a tough matchup here. I've watched Billy Swanson before. I've watched tape on him before. Didn't watch any leading up to this one,
Yeah,
obviously.
Brett Martin is a disaster too. Just the guy who pulled out, who was originally supposed to face Giacomo. Brett Martin's pulled out of a lot of fights. He's had to fight at super heavyweight, even though it does appear he's not a huge heavyweight. So Brett Martin's career is this is not, unfortunately, all too expected.
Yeah, I'm going. Anyways, long story short, man, I'm going with Giacomo Lamos to win this one.
Yeah, and I mean, I would expect this to be a higher number than the previous number, obviously.
Oh yeah,
because previously he was an underdog against Brett Martin, which I was actually looking at as a potential spot. Now he's going to be a pretty sizable favorite. He'll probably be the biggest favorite on the card, I would assume. Just with the scenario that we have playing out here. So, Giacomo for both of us here. And now we are on to the featured fight, which I think at least everybody who's looked at the card has gone, really? And it should be pretty obvious why. We've got Bevon Lewis here making his heavyweight debut. He decided, I don't want to even check out light heavyweight. I want to go to heavyweight right away, and making his heavyweight debut against a very, tough opponent. I think the second most talented fighter on the card here in Marcelo Nunes, a very good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, 7-1, good experience here, and a pretty interesting fight here that both these guys have decided, to make the moves they have, but Marcelo Nunes, I'll be breaking down first here, 7-1, 6'3", 76-inch reacher, 33-year-old, now fighting out of Minnesota. Last fought with CFFC back in November. Got a arm triangle win of our favorite fighter, Anthony Lionheart. I bet him. Everybody knows that if it's a Lionheart fight, I'm betting against him. So God bless Anthony Garrett. Did his job, went in there, gassed after about a minute and a half, got taken down, arm triangled by the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner in Marcelo Nunes here. Overall, most of his fights do come by submission. He lost by ground and pound to Rafael Lovato. So both these guys have fought at middleweight. That's kind of a funny nugget here. Bevon Lewis, I looked everywhere. I was about to say, Kelly, I looked for Bevon Lewis. I wanted to see the condition of heavyweight Bevon Lewis. Social media is radio silent for Bevon Lewis here. So he's shut it down. I have no idea. And Lewis was in the UFC. Yeah. And Lewis's last fight was against Trevin Giles, who now fights at welterweight and is getting knocked out by welterweights. I mean, I just don't know really what to expect out of this fight. To be honest, I wasn't able to check out the weigh-ins before this. Were you?
Yeah, I actually watched them. Bevon Lewis, I thought he looked fine at heavyweight. I thought he looked good, actually.
Okay, that probably won't. Okay, that probably won't be an issue then. What are your kind of thoughts on Bevon Lewis going to heavyweight? And I don't really know what to think.
I mean, it's just kind of weird. I mean, I thought I was like seeing things when I first saw this, but I mean, like
Right.
Nunes was at welterweight as well, aside from his last two fights. I mean, he had a 5-year layoff from MMA after being at middleweight and fighting Rafael Lovato Jr., which was his only loss. Bevon Lewis, man, I mean, most people are probably wondering what he's doing at heavyweight, but a PFL, I feel like we see a lot of guys kind of moving up. Normally it's from light heavyweight, granted, but still, you see kind of those people on the lighter end of the heavyweight limit most of the time in PFL. Started his career 6-0, some wins on LFA, some wins on Contender Series, and then finally gets to the UFC, goes 1-3 in 4 fights, and lost to Uriah Hall, Darren Stewart, Trevin Giles, had that win over Dequan Townsend, and now up at heavyweight trying to get into the PFL. I mean, he's got a good right hand. I like the way that he incorporates the leg kicks into his combinations. I think he's going to be a little bit faster in this matchup. Clinch game is all right, but probably just avoid any type of grappling at all. against a guy like Marcelo Nunes, who's just a jiu-jitsu legend, man. I mean, I could just list off a bunch of accomplishments, IBJJF Masters World Champion 2018, Pan Championship 2019, American Nationals 2018. I mean, a whole bunch of stuff. MMA wise, though, I mean, he really hasn't fought anyone that good, with the exception of Rafael Lovato Jr., who he lost to, and had his first 5 fights between 2013 and 15. He was a middleweight during that time, and then takes a 5-year layoff, obviously competing and grappling in that time. Moves to heavyweight, beats a 2-7 guy on CFFC, then beat Anthony Garrett last year, who obviously isn't that good. I have heard that he's been training with Bruno Capelozza coming into this one, so that's good to hear. And I mean, striking wise, he's looked okay. I mean, he spams the kicks because he really does not care if you take him down to the mat. If anything, you're doing him a favor by doing this. I don't really think we need to say too much about the grappling. Like, you can probably just take our word for it that it's good. I actually like Bevon Lewis here, man. I think he's going to be faster and sharper in the stand-up. I mean, obviously, if he ends up in his back, that's going to be big trouble. But I like Lewis as the underdog. I got him at plus 152. Just fought far and away the much better competition. Has 4 UFC fights under his belt. I mean, if Nunes was like a real heavyweight that was competing a lot in MMA, I probably would be on him.
This is Marcelo Golem here, for example.
Yeah. But like this one, I don't know, man. Like, this guy took 5
Seems like
years
a good
off
shot
and beat 2 bums. So
yeah, that's interesting. I think that for this fight, I'm still gonna go with Nunes, but I'm not putting a dollar on it. This is probably the PFL I'm going to be betting the least. Besides Koresh, I don't feel all that comfortable putting my money behind any of these guys. Might take a slight gamble, and I capital G gamble, on Dequan Buckley. Just to answer Visceral's question from the beginning, this is the most unclear of the cards for me from a pick perspective, actually. I don't think this is cut and dry at all. Because now I'm really not sure. But I'm still going to go with Nunes for now. I just think, he can get this fight where he needs to and get the submission. And my prediction would be Koresh gets the contract. If Koresh doesn't get the contract, I mean, if there were odds on that, I bet Koresh would be minus 400 to get the contract or something. So that is the PFL Challenger Series 6 card. This was a very interesting breakdown to have between the short notice and then learning about Bevon Lewis. I should have watched the weigh-ins before this, but I would never know when they are released. So apologize for not having that. But yeah, Visceral, always appreciate you being here. Appreciate everybody checked it out. Kelly had some good talk with you in the comments earlier on a video. We were talking about Carly Pangolin, and he made we were brought up to catch a predator. You never know what's going to happen in the, comments section of an Aaron the Dog video. But that's going to do it for the PFL Challenger Series 6 card. That's going to do it for the week of MMA as well. So we got the 1FC card tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. I've got Mighty Mouse in the weird MMA kickboxing fight with Rotang.
What time is that on, by the way?
8 a.m. it starts. 8 a.m. Eastern. So yeah, it's
really
and there will be ways to watch this one. They're making the pay-per-view available, which means there'll be other ways in that. So I'll leave it at that. So any thoughts on Riley Wiseman, LFA? Do you have any thoughts on Riley Wiseman? I didn't.
Yeah, we don't really go through the prelims. I'm just gonna look who he's fighting. Yeah, I don't.
He or she. It might be a she. We don't know. We typically just do the main card, which, by the way, CCTV. It's on the channel right now if you want to check out our LFA breakdown and the UFC breakdown, both with Lucky Locks on there. And then whoever the predator is, I'd be willing to bet he's best. Okay. Anyways, we're going to take off before I get my channel canceled here. For Aaron the Dog, for Lucky Locks picks, enjoy all the breakdowns on the channel. Enjoy the fights starting tomorrow. And then Saturday, we got the last UFC intel, UFC 273. So go and check out that as well. But enjoy the fights, everybody. Keep taking care of each other. Thanks for checking out the channel. Like and subscribe. Share with your fellow MMA enthusiasts.